Right, everyone, the lack of a Celtic game this weekend gives us a bit of an opportunity on the channel to take a broader look at things, maybe touch on some areas that we normally don't have the time to during a busy week. And today we're going to do just that. If you haven't already guessed from the headline and this Champions League ball, it is European football that we're going to be taking a look at. The European football scene is changing. I think it's fair to say drastically over the next couple of years, and Celtic are going to be affected as part of that. So, as the leading team in Scotland, what is on offer for Celtic in Europe over the next few years? We're going to take a look at that today. As always, if you enjoy our videos, please think about subscribing to the channel. We're nearly at 35,000 subscribers now. We don't ask for money. We don't even really ask for praise. It makes us feel quite awkward. So if you feel you want to give something back to the channel, all that we ask is you click that subscribe button. Right, I'm not holding this the whole video. Boom! Starfelt header there. Right, European football. The best way to try and tackle this, I think, is by kind of starting where we're at the moment and working our way forward. So as time goes on, things will become a little more complicated, but, we'll get to that. So right now, where do we stand? And when you're answering that question with regards to UEFA, it comes down to two things. You've got Celtic's position and Scottish football's position. Now, you'll probably know all this, so apologies if I am telling you stuff you know. Celtic's position determines seedings, effectively, whether we're seeded or not seeded for knockout matches or in group stage draws, what pot are we in. Scottish football's ranking is kind of more meaningful, to be honest. That determines how many places Scottish teams get for the various competitions, how late they enter the various competitions, etc. So we've got Celtic's ranking and Scottish football's ranking. We'll start with the former. So there's not really a kind of positive way to spin this. Celtic's club ranking isn't brilliant right now. It's taken over the past 5 seasons. So that starts at season 2018-2019, which was Brendan Rodgers' final in charge of the club. So if we start things off at the top here with Bayern Munich, we are all the way down here in 57th with a total of 31 points. So as you can see, that's 6 in the 18-19 season, 10 in 19-20. That's when we topped our Europa League group. A dire 3 in the COVID season, 6 last season, and 6 this season. Now, just for reference, the 6 that we got this season were made up of 4 that we got automatically just for participating in the Champions League group stage, and we got 1 point for each of our draws against Shakhtar Donetsk. So that is how the 6 were made up. So we're 57th at the moment. That is where we will finish this season. All of the teams behind us that could theoretically catch us are also already out of Europe. We can't get any more points, so we can't rise any higher. We can't fall any lower. So 57th is where we'll finish the season. I kind of feel like Celtic are better than 57th in Europe right now, but I guess we haven't proven that with our results in the various European competitions over the past 5 years. It's, a fair ranking based on that, but something clearly Ange will want to improve upon. The picture is better for Scotland overall. So right now we sit 9th in the UEFA country coefficients table. Again, that's for the past 5 seasons. So the 6.75 there on the left is for season 18-19, all the way over to the disappointing 3.5 for this season. So a bit like Celtic, Scotland is going to finish the season in 9th. If you look to the right-hand side there, you'll see why. There are obviously 24 teams left in Europe this season, 8 in the Champions League, 8 in the Europa League, and 8 in the Conference League. 22 of those 24 are taken from the 8 countries above us, which are clearly the best 8 leagues in Europe. I mean, Belgium there, for example, who are just above us, still have 3 teams left in Europe, and we've not had any since, November. The other two nations with teams left in Europe are Switzerland with Basel and Poland with Lech Poznan. They are 13th and 26th, respectively, so they won't be catching Scotland before the end of this season. Now, it is worth pointing out at this stage that the UEFA country rankings are done with a year lag. So what that means is that the rankings as they were at the end of last season are what are used for next season, and the rankings as they will finish this season will be what matters for the year after next, if that makes sense. So there's a year lag between the results in the table and what they actually affect. So if you've drifted off into a wee daze amid the sea of numbers, now is the time to perk up, because basically what I've been telling you is the Premiership winners this season, which is very much looking like us, will go straight into the Champions League group stage next season. That is for sure. Next season's Premiership winners will also go straight into the Champions League for the 2024-25 season. But that season right at the end, which is 2024-25, is not going to be like effectively every Champions League season we've known in recent years, because the Champions League is changing. Next season is the last of the UEFA competitions as we know them. Next season is the last season of group stages in the competitions. From the following season, 2024-25, all three UEFA competitions will adopt a new format. So by now you will almost certainly have heard, what this is, but I'm going to just go over it in simple terms here. So from season 24-25, the Champions League will grow from 32 teams to 36, so an additional 4 teams coming aboard. All 36 teams will be grouped into one single league. So the group stage is done with each team playing 8 different other teams. So basically what will happen is the 36 teams will still be divided into 4 pots, each with 9 teams in them. And if we just assume that Celtic are going to be in there, probably in the bottom pot, we would then play 2 teams from each pot. So you play 2 teams from the elite pot, which would be like, say, Manchester City and Real Madrid, for example. You then play 2 teams from the next pot down, which would maybe be, I don't know, AC Milan and Borussia Dortmund. You would then play 2 teams from the next pot down, which might be Shakhtar Donetsk and Marseille. How about that? And you would then also play 2 teams from the bottom pot, which might be... Now I'm struggling. Copenhagen and Olympiacos. How about that? I'm not sure to do with, if you'd be able to play teams for your own country or stuff like that. That's unlikely to be too relevant to us. But yeah, you're effectively going to have 8 matches, all against different teams, 2 from kind of each difficulty, if that makes sense, if it was like a computer game. And 4 of those matches will be at home and 4 away. So all of these results will then be factored into one giant 36-team table. The top 8 in the league will qualify for the last 16, with 9th to 24th playing off against each other to join them. If you finish from 25th to 36th, which I think is 12 teams, you'll be out of Europe, so no more drop into the Europa League. Speaking of the Europa League, that will follow an identical format with the one league of 36 teams. The Conference League will also have 36 teams, but only 6 matches per team. So, yeah, there's been a lot of chat about this. There's been plenty of chat about the extra places and how UEFA's kind of handing them out, and the fact that they're kind of favouring the more established countries, the kind of big 5 countries and all of that stuff. People unhappy about that. From a Celtic point of view, that's not likely to be too relevant to us. I think we should just keep it simple. I quite enjoy the experience at the moment in European group stage football, when you're in a group with 3 other teams and you're kind of focused on that. Although I do guess that if we're in one major league, then every result kind of becomes relevant to you because you're all part of one league table. So maybe that's what UEFA are going for. I think most importantly, it will bring our minimum number of Champions League matches up from 6 per season to 8 per season, which is good news for Celtic. Listen, we're in Scottish football at the moment. I think it's fair to say the standard of Scottish football isn't great at the moment. And I think therefore Celtic really have to be playing as much European football as possible and going up from, a minimum of 6 at the moment to a minimum of 8 from a couple of years' time, I think is a 33% increase. And that's good news from a Celtic point of view. Another big night at Celtic Park, another away day as well. There's maybe a separate argument on supporters having to pay more and all of that stuff. But I think from a purely, competitive point of view and Celtic kind of wanting to put themselves up against the best in Europe, this is good news. When I'm talking about all of this stuff, it may seem pretty futuristic. It's something that's maybe happening in 5, 6, 7 seasons' time. That's not the case. We have one more season to go of the Champions League as we know it next season. After that, we're straight into this new format. BT Sport will continue to show most of the games in Britain, although Amazon Prime will get a big game every Tuesday. I think they get the first pick of matches every Tuesday. Strangely enough, the BBC will have highlights of the Champions League as well on a Wednesday night. So it all just seems very strange, but this is what is going to be a reality in like less than 18 months' time. There's not going to be a kind of a group stage draw as there is at the moment, but I guess we'll still, if Celtic are there, we'll still get some sort of a draw to find out who we're going to play. So it's going to be very different. So just to summarise, Celtic's current position in the UEFA club rankings isn't great, but, a bit like the English Premier League at the bottom at the moment, things are very close between a number of the teams around us. And if Ange can get us going in Europe and we can go on to have better seasons than this season and last season, where we've had 6 in each season, if we can get to like 10 points a season, we will very quickly move up those rankings. And we have a real kind of clear path towards the Champions League over the next few years. We don't have to worry about daft summer qualifiers. The only thing we need to focus on domestically is making sure that we're the Scottish champions. If we're the Scottish champions this season, we'll be straight into the Champions League again next season. No qualifiers. How good was that last summer? And, same for the following season and possibly beyond that as well. So we have a real opportunity here to have Champions League football at least over the next 2 seasons. And hopefully if Ange is at the club and is, raising the standards at as much as he can, we can continue to grow and become a Champions League club that does well in the Champions League every season and competes against the very best teams. So it's very exciting. Under Ange, this is all possible as well. I think that's the thing. Ange has got a plan to take Celtic to the next level. And while, I'm not sure if Ange would know every detail that we've spoken about in this video, it strikes me as the kind of thing he wouldn't bother about too much because he can't really control it. But I think he'll be aware of, Celtic's European football increasing over the next few years. I mean, next year I would love to really see us make a good go of it in the Champions League in the group stage. At the very least, finish third in our group and drop down into the Europa League and really set ourselves up for this new Champions League that's coming in the following season. I get the impression we're in for some very fun times under Ange in Europe over the next few years.